Food is supposed to bring people together for comfort, celebration, and survival. It's something we trust without question, something we put into our bodies every single day without fear. A single ingredient, a hidden toxin, or one overlooked mistake can turn an ordinary meal into a nightmare. Across history, there have been chilling moments where food didn't just sicken people. It killed them sometimes instantly, sometimes in slow, terrifying ways that no one saw coming. These are not just accidents. They're reminders of how fragile that trust really is. And once you hear these stories, you might never look at your next meal the same way again.
My phone rings and I pick up the phone and it's her, and she can't articulate a word. And she's saying, "Sister, I need you here now." She was saying, "I need you here now, I need you here now."
It started like any ordinary stop. Just a quick grab at a gas station outside Sacramento. Nothing unusual. Nothing that would make you hesitate. A bag of chips, a pump of warm nacho cheese, and then back on the road. The kind of decision you've probably made countless times without even thinking. But this time, something was different. Within days, people began to fall sick. Not the kind of sickness you shake off with rest or medicine, but something far more terrifying. It began subtly. Blurred vision, heavy eyelids that refused to stay open, words slurring together as if the body itself was slowly shutting down. And then came the paralysis. Muscles stopped responding. Breathing became a struggle. One by one, victims were rushed into hospitals, some needing machines just to stay alive. At least 10 people were poisoned. 9 fought for their lives in hospital beds, many placed on ventilators as their bodies failed them. And one man didn't make it. After weeks of battling the unseen poison, he slipped into a coma and never woke up. All of it traced back to something so ordinary it almost feels impossible. A cheese sauce dispenser sitting in a gas station. Health officials soon uncovered the cause. A deadly toxin produced by Clostridium botulinum. It's rare, so rare that most people never even think about it. But when it strikes, it doesn't just make you sick. It attacks your nervous system, shutting down the very signals that keep you alive. And in this case, it had somehow contaminated a commercial food product, something people trusted without a second thought. One woman, after adding the cheese to her chips, called her family, but she could barely speak. Her words were trapped, her voice fading as the toxin took hold. On the other end of the line, her sister listened in panic, realizing something was terribly wrong. That moment, confusion turning into fear, is something you can almost feel, because it's not just about what happened, it's about how quickly everything changed. By the time authorities stepped in, the damage had already been done. The contaminated cheese was pulled from shelves, and officials reassured the public that there was no ongoing threat. But that doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't undo the lives changed in an instant, all from a snack that was supposed to be harmless. And that's what makes this story so unsettling, because it forces you to think, how many times have you trusted something without question? How many times have you taken that quick bite assuming it was safe? Most of the time it is, but sometimes it only takes one mistake, one overlooked detail, for something ordinary to turn deadly. It was April 4th, 2019, in the quiet town of Chorley, Lancashire, the kind of place where nothing ever feels urgent, where days pass gently, predictably. And for 51-year-old Darren Hickey, it was just another ordinary evening at Ridgemont House, the wedding venue where he worked. He was finishing up, preparing to head home. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that would hint at what was about to unfold. Darren wasn't just any man, he was a survivor. 7 years earlier, he had suffered a devastating stroke, one that nearly ended his life. 18 months in hospital followed, filled with painful, frustrating steps as he relearned how to walk, how to speak, how to live again. But Darren refused to give up. He fought his way back, stronger, more determined. He poured himself into charity work, inspiring others, even earning recognition for his courage. He had already beaten the odds once, and then it all came down to a single bite. As he was about to leave work, a chef offered him a taste of a fish cake being prepared for an event. Oh, just a small sample. Something harmless, something forgettable. Darren accepted without a second thought. But the moment he bit into it, something was wrong. The inside was scalding, far hotter than he expected. The heat tore through his throat instantly, burning deep inside where no one could see. It wasn't the kind of pain you could shake off with a sip of water. It was sharp, intense, but Darren brushed it aside. After everything he had endured in his life, this felt minor. Just a burn, just discomfort. Nothing serious. At least that's what he believed. As the hours passed, the pain didn't ease. It grew. Swallowing became difficult. Talking felt strained. There was something wrong, and deep down, he knew it. He told his partner, Neil Parkinson, who urged him not to ignore it. Reluctantly, Darren went to the urgent care ward at Chorley Hospital. He explained everything: the bite, the burning sensation, the pain that wouldn't go away. A healthcare practitioner examined him, even reaching out to a specialist for advice. But there was a problem. The injury was hidden. The burn was deep inside his throat, far beyond what the eye could see. His mouth and tongue looked normal. No visible damage, no clear warning signs. And so, with no obvious evidence of something severe, Darren was sent home. Just paracetamol, just a simple instruction: come back if it gets worse. But by then it already was. Back at home, the night grew heavier. Darren tried to rest, but his body wouldn't let him. Inside his throat, swelling was beginning to take hold. Slow at first, almost unnoticed, then creeping, then tightening. The space he needed to breathe was shrinking, minute by minute, second by second. By 9:45 p.m., everything changed. Neil heard it before he saw it. Disturbing, desperate sounds. Darren was struggling, gasping, choking. The kind of sounds that instantly trigger panic because something is terribly, terribly wrong. Neil rushed to him, trying to help, trying to understand. But there was no time. He called for an ambulance. Every second stretched painfully. Every moment felt too long. And when help was finally on the way, another cruel delay struck. Paramedics struggled to locate their address, losing precious minutes Darren didn't have. By the time they arrived, his airway was already closing. The swelling had become catastrophic. Darren could no longer breathe. He was rushed to Royal Bolton Hospital, but the damage was done. He never regained consciousness. In the early hours of April 5th, Darren Hickey was gone, just 12 hours after taking a bite of food. At the inquest, the truth came out, and it was more horrifying than anyone imagined. The internal burn had triggered extreme swelling in his throat, specifically around his voice box, until it completely blocked his airway. It was the kind of injury doctors usually see in industrial accidents or severe fires, not from something as ordinary as food, and that's what made it so deadly. There were no external signs, nothing visible, nothing that screamed danger, just a hidden injury, quietly escalating into something fatal. The coroner called it what it was, a rare and devastating tragedy. But those words couldn't capture the weight of it, couldn't explain how a man who had already fought his way back from death could lose his life to something so small, so unexpected.
Vera had suffered a ruptured esophagus while eating her piece of toast all those weeks ago, and that small tear in her throat had caused a massive amount of blood to flow into her intestines.
It was October 10th, 2014, in the quiet town of Rhyl, Wales, the kind of place where mornings feel routine, predictable, safe. And for 75-year-old Vera Williams, that morning began just like any other. She sat down for a simple breakfast. Nothing unusual, nothing that would raise concern, just a piece of toast. But that ordinary moment would quietly set something irreversible into motion. As Vera took a bite, a sharp fragment caught in her throat. It wasn't dramatic, no choking, no panic, no desperate struggle for air, just a sudden, uncomfortable sting, the kind of thing most people would dismiss without a second thought. And Vera did exactly that. She carried on, unaware that something far more serious had already begun. Inside her body, that tiny, jagged piece had done damage no one could see. Vera, who had been living with severe heart disease for years, decided to get it checked, just to be safe. She went to the emergency department at Ysbyty Glan Clwyd, explaining the pain in her throat. A junior doctor examined her carefully, looking for anything obvious, but there was nothing. No visible injury, no swelling, no clear sign of danger, and so, with no evidence pointing to something serious, she was sent home. But the pain stayed. Days passed, then more days, nearly 2 weeks of quiet discomfort. The kind you learn to live with, the kind you convince yourself isn't serious enough to worry about. Maybe she thought it would heal on its own. Maybe she didn't want to make a fuss. Either way, she couldn't have known what was happening beneath the surface, because inside, the damage was growing. On October 23rd, Vera returned to the hospital. This time, she spoke about pain in her neck, but she didn't connect it to that earlier visit, to that piece of toast, to the moment it all began. Without that missing detail, the doctor treating her suspected something minor, an infection, perhaps, something manageable. She was given antibiotics and sent home again. And then, less than 24 hours later, everything unraveled. Vera suddenly began coughing up blood, not a small amount, not something you could ignore. It was violent, alarming, the kind of moment that instantly turns fear into reality. She was rushed back to the hospital, this time in critical condition. Doctors moved quickly. A CT scan was performed, and what they found was devastating. That tiny fragment of toast had torn through her esophagus. The injury had gone unnoticed for weeks, slowly worsening, until it led to a rare and life-threatening condition, esophageal perforation. Blood was leaking internally. Her body was beginning to shut down. It's the kind of injury doctors almost never see, only a handful of cases per million people. So rare that even experienced specialists can go their entire careers without encountering it. But for Vera, it was real. Surgery might have been her only chance, but her heart, already fragile, couldn't withstand the risk. The very thing that had kept her fighting for so long now made saving her nearly impossible. Doctors did what they could, trying to control the damage, trying to buy time. But time wasn't on her side. Her condition worsened rapidly, and just days later, Vera Williams was gone, all from a single bite of toast. Her death left behind a wave of disbelief. How could something so simple, so harmless, lead to something so final? An inquest was launched, searching for answers, trying to understand if anything could have been done differently. A senior consultant later reviewed the case and admitted just how unusual it was. In decades of experience, she had never seen anything like it. The doctors had acted based on what they knew in the moment. There were no obvious signs, no clear warnings, but there was one detail that lingered. At the time, the hospital relied on paper records. No instant access to patient history, no clear timeline connecting her visits. If that information had been visible, if the full story had been seen, maybe things would have unfolded differently.
30-year-old Natasha Harris drank up to 10 litres of Coke every day, twice the recommended safe daily limit of caffeine. The Invercargill mother of 8 died suddenly in February 2010.
It was February 25th, 2010, in Invercargill. Inside a quiet home, Christopher Hodkinson found his partner, Natasha Harris, collapsed against the bathroom wall. Her breathing was faint, fading. Panic set in as he called for help, but it was already too late. Natasha died that evening from cardiac arrest. She was just 30 years old, leaving behind 8 children and a devastated family. At first, nothing made sense. There were no drugs, no alcohol abuse, nothing that explained such a sudden death. But as the truth emerged, it revealed something deeply unsettling. Natasha's addiction wasn't to anything illegal, it was Coca-Cola. What started as a normal habit in her teens grew into something extreme. Over time, she began drinking up to 10 liters a day, every single day. Her routine revolved around it. Without it, she became irritable and restless. It wasn't just a habit anymore, it was dependency. For years, she suffered symptoms that seemed unrelated. Fatigue, nausea, a racing heart, frequent vomiting. No one connected it to what she was drinking. But inside her body, the damage was severe. Her teeth had deteriorated completely. Her liver had become enlarged from years of excessive sugar. More dangerously, her potassium levels dropped to critical levels, a condition called hypokalemia. Combined with massive caffeine intake, it disrupted her heart rhythm until it ultimately failed. On the day she died, she didn't seem seriously ill, just slightly unwell. Hours later, she collapsed, Paramedics couldn't save her. The inquest revealed the extent of the damage. The coroner stated that without her extreme Coca-Cola consumption, her death likely wouldn't have happened the way it did. Her body had simply been pushed too far. Experts highlighted the risks of excessive sugar and caffeine intake, while Coca-Cola maintained that consumption choices were personal responsibility. But Natasha's story wasn't just about a drink, it was about escape. As a mother of 8, she carried constant pressure and exhaustion. According to her family, Coke became her coping mechanism, something easily available, socially accepted, and dangerously underestimated. She gave everything to her children, often putting their needs before her own. But while she held her family together, her health quietly collapsed. After her death, the impact was devastating. Christopher struggled to cope, and eventually the children were placed into state care. And that's what makes this story so unsettling, because it wasn't something rare or forbidden, it was something ordinary, something millions of people consume every day, without ever imagining how dangerous it can become. It was the evening of July 20th, 2022, in Mumbai. Inside a small home tucked into the crowded lanes of Malad West, 27-year-old Rhea Nishad was just trying to get through another ordinary day. Life wasn't easy, but it was manageable. Until one small decision, almost invisible in the moment, changed everything. Like many homes in the city, theirs had a problem with rats. It was constant, frustrating, and hard to control. So Rhea did what many people do. She tried to fix it herself. She injected poison into a few tomatoes, planning to use them as bait. It seemed like a simple, practical solution. She set them aside, separate from the rest, and moved on. Hours later, tired and hungry, she decided to make something quick, instant noodles. Something warm, something easy. Without thinking, she reached for a tomato, the same one she had poisoned. She sliced it, added it to the pot, stirred everything together, and unknowingly sealed her fate. At first, nothing seemed wrong, but soon after eating, her body began to react. A slight discomfort turned into sharp pain. Nausea hit hard. Her strength faded rapidly. What felt like a minor issue quickly became something terrifying. Her husband and brother-in-law rushed her to the hospital, panic growing with every passing minute, but the poison had already taken hold. Doctors tried to save her. They moved quickly, doing everything they could, but some damage moves faster than medicine. Rhea's condition worsened, and 2 days later, on July 22nd, she was gone. Her family was left shattered, grappling with a loss that came from a moment no one could have predicted. And then, just weeks later, another life was lost in a chillingly similar way. On August 13th, in Sakinaka, 24-year-old Kajal Par wasn't feeling well. It seemed minor, a stomach ache, something you'd normally treat without worry. She reached for what she believed was medicine. It wasn't. It was rat poison. She swallowed it before realizing something was wrong. Almost immediately, her body reacted. A burning sensation spread through her throat. Panic set in. Alone and afraid, she called her mother, trying to explain what she was feeling. Her family rushed to her, desperate to help, and took her to a nearby hospital. But the poison was already spreading. She was transferred from one hospital to another as her condition worsened. Each move came with less hope. The toxin had severely damaged her liver. Her organs were shutting down. Despite every effort, doctors couldn't reverse what had already begun. 6 days later, on August 19th, Kajal died. Her husband wasn't even there when it happened. He was away on a trekking trip, returning home to a reality no one could prepare for. Investigations found no crime, no foul play, just 2 tragic accidents, 2 young women, 2 ordinary days, 2 small, devastating mistakes, and in both cases, something meant to solve a problem became the cause of something irreversible.